My name is Ollie, and people call me Acid Girl. This is all because instead of tears, acid flows from my eyes. My parents were very happy that a beautiful and healthy girl was born to them. Since childhood, I have not been in need of anything. My family cherished and took care of me, as well as called me their precious. At the age of about 3, my parents noticed that after I cried, my face would turn red and tear tracks, if you can call them that, had remained on my cheeks for several days. That is why, since then, my parents and other relatives have tried to do everything possible to make me cry less, and because of this, friends of our family even said that I was the most spoiled child in the world. And in general, with such permissiveness, I would turn into a horrible person in the future. Well, she will cry a little bit. It's not a big deal. All children cry from time to time, they said, and the arguments that my skin had a severe reaction to tears did not convince anyone. But I am grateful to my parents for the fact that they did not follow the advice of others and just listen to their own hearts. It just hurt a lot, and I would grow up being a deeply unhappy person if I had to cry often. But at that point, no one knew exactly what was happening to me, and for a long time, everything was attributed to hypersensitive skin, which actually was quite convincing. But later, it became clear that the problem was not in my skin at all. When I was about 12 years old, my tears became somehow more toxic, so to say, and most likely it was due to the beginning of puberty. Once at school, I had a serious fight with a classmate, so I ran home in tears. After crying into my pillow for a while, I saw that my pillowcase had a lot of holes. That is, it was eaten away by my tears. Since then, my parents stopped saying that my skin was hypersensitive and realized that the reason was not that at all. While we were looking for the reasons why my tears were toxic, I was trying as much as possible to do my best to keep my emotions in check. But one day, I burst into tears again and was left without eyelashes. My tears simply dissolved them with their acidity. Just imagine this. It's a terrible sight, I'm telling you. A month later, my diagnosis was established based on the results of tests and examinations. Everything turned out to be extremely simple and at the same time quite hopeless. Doctors said that my tears were acidic. However, it has already been clear for a long time, but the medics did not actually know what to do and how I was supposed to live with it. I didn't know either, and at some point, I just gave up. I was tired of constantly controlling my emotions because it was really difficult. It seemed to me that I was an insensitive doll stuffed with hay and, pardon me, acid. At that moment, everything that I had been trying to hold inside for so long burst out like lava. And it was the helplessness of the doctors that served as the catalyst because I had hoped for their help so much. I got depressed and was constantly crying. In the meantime, my face just turned into a piece of meat because the acid was eating away my skin and it almost disappeared completely. As a result of my nervous breakdown, I ended up in a hospital where my nerves and skin were treated. At the same time, an internal transformation began to take place in me, and something inside me died, after which I stopped crying completely. Since that moment, I did not need to restrain my emotions. They just ceased to exist. I could not even squeeze a tear out of myself when my beloved dog, Rhina, died, although everything inside me was literally torn apart, but it was so deep that no one could get it out. People started saying that I was cold and insensitive, which was really unpleasant. And after all, I'm a girl and we need to cry sometimes. I think if I were a boy, I wouldn't have worried about the lack of ability to cry at all. But who would have thought that one day I would be ready to give the whole world for the sake of my tears, and later they would even save my life and the lives of my parents? This happened at our new country house where we had not yet managed to install the security system. On that day, we went there to stay overnight for the first time and were very happy to escape from the stuffy city. Nothing boded ill, but I woke up in the middle of the night being in a horrible state. I felt sick, nauseated, and had a terrible headache. I tried to look around, but everything was floating and spinning. In addition, I could not move because my arms and legs were tied up. What's going on here? I thought. Then I heard the voices of my parents, and at the same time, I was gradually coming to my senses. My parents, by the way, were also tied up, and we began to think about how to get free. I've got to say that our position was hopeless, and we were floundering in vain like fish on land. What could we do? There must be some way out. It was impossible to tear or bite through the damn ropes, but we still tried to do it, and it was pointless to wait for help because it would take our relatives at least 3 days to even start worrying because we had told everyone that we wanted to take a break from everything and would not get in touch with anyone during the first few days. Then we realized that the only way for us to save ourselves could be to use my tears. But I didn't know how to squeeze out at least even a drop of tears as I completely ceased crying and literally became numb because of the fear evoked by what was happening. I couldn't even think that someday I would find myself in such a situation that someone would beg me to cry and that it would be my parents who'd been doing everything possible their whole lives in order not to see my tears. Here we are. I started to recall all the saddest and most tragic stories from my life, that is, the ones that tear the soul apart, but there was no reaction at all. Hey, tears, where are you? Come on. Ollie, you're such an ugly and unpleasant girl. Ollie, come on, remember how you were the worst participant in the Miss School contest? Do you remember how your best friend betrayed you and told everyone your secrets? It was all in vain. I even asked my parents to tell me some unpleasant things, but they were unable to do this even in extreme conditions. I even recalled what I used to be afraid to think of because of the fear of getting depressed and crying my heart out. Is this the name of the state when you cry without stopping? All in all, I realized that absolutely nothing was capable of drawing tears from me. Well, at least I turned out to have a strong immunity against moral suffering. So what was I supposed to do? All that was left was to try to inflict physical pain on myself, but how to do that while being tied up? And then a totally crazy idea came to my mind. What if I bite my tongue hard to make myself cry? It's clear that it would be difficult for me to bite myself so hard, but I needed to try to do it. After all, this was a matter of life and death. The first attempts were not successful because I couldn't injure my own body. Then I pulled myself together, and without thinking in advance and without preparation, I bit my tongue with my teeth. You know, it happens when you eat something very tasty and you get carried away so much by the process that you stop controlling your teeth. Oh, my tongue, oh! It was impossible to describe the pain that I felt, and of course, tears started flowing from my eyes by themselves. This was exactly what I needed. However, along with the tears, I had to choke on my own blood. I don't even know how to explain my feelings. My tongue was swollen to the size of that of a cow, and I could hardly fit it in my mouth. But I remembered what everything was done for, so I wiped my tears with the rope that was wrapped around my hands. Eureka! It was being eaten away. I was crying for about 30 minutes, and after that, I was able to completely free my arms, and then my legs, and then my parents. Well, the main thing was that everyone was alive and mostly healthy, but I was really upset with the fact that we did not have any phones or documents or money or anything else. It became clear that we had been robbed in quite a bold manner. Fortunately, Dad was able to find the car keys, and we drove to the nearest police station. It turned out that in the area of our country house, a gang of robbers had been operating for several months. Through a lock or an open window, they were spraying soporific gas into the house and then would get inside, tie up the sleeping victims, and take out all of the valuable things. In short, this was exactly how it happened with us, so there was no doubt that it was they who had robbed us. I don't know if those scoundrels will ever be detained, but I know one thing, that my parents and I are very lucky that I do not cry with ordinary tears. Yeah, it's very hard to live like this, but I'm afraid that we would have just died in our country house if not for the acid that I produced. You know, it's surprising that when I tell my friends about my peculiarity, they laugh at me and do not even believe that it's possible. They explain their doubts by the fact that in such a case, my tears would have long ago eaten away my face completely, together with my eyes, and in general, all of my organs. Hey, smarties, I'm telling this to you. Our bodies are so smart that everything is envisioned before we even manage to think about it. Moreover, I will tell you a dark secret. In the stomach of each of you, there is a strong acid that can dissolve even a piece of meat, but you live with it and don't suffer, don't you? Now think, why should my body be more stupid than yours? By the way, after what happened, we immediately installed an alarm and security system in our country house, so soon we will try to stay there again, but to be honest, I still have not recovered from the stress I experienced. And now it's your turn to talk about your oddities. Give your answers in the comments, click on the thumbs up button, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't joined us yet.